All right, Gary. So it's good to talk to you again. I know it's been about a year or so, but it's the perfect time to reunite and talk some Miami Hurricanes football on Prime Sports Network with Mario Cristobal back in town.
Yeah,
How about that? I mean, I
big,
can't imagine the excitement when the news
big.
came about, and right now how it's just generating. I would think every day.
Yeah, it's big time excitement, Greg. There's no doubt about it. Mario Cristobal is the perfect hire at the perfect time for Miami. He's rallied the university into spending an enormous amount of money and making a big investment in football that it's needed to make for years. He's rallied community support both in the NIL arena and other donations that are going to go towards a new football facility. The community is out buying tickets and rallying around the team. There's just excitement, Greg, at every single level of the program down here.
Yeah, and again, like you said, it is the perfect hire. There is no better. It's like a reprieve almost from my perspective. That because a lot of people could look and say, "Ah, you know what? They had their chance. They had their dynasty. They're just going to keep screwing it up. It's just never going to be the same." And then it's just like a dream come true that the perfect coach for the turnaround is there, and that he decided to come back to his alma mater. And now it's just a matter of him doing what he does best, and that's recruit. It's not going to be overnight, but I look at this roster and I got to think that it's pretty exciting because a lot of the kids on this roster are young. This is a mostly young team, isn't it?
It really is. It was a young team last year too, and it's still a young team, and they do have guys that they can grow with, but they've gone out in the portal and brought in some veteran guys that have kind of balanced it out. Greg, they brought in several defensive linemen. They got themselves a middle linebacker with some experience. They brought Frank Latson over at wide receiver from Clemson. They got Henry Parrish over at running back from Ole Miss. So they've brought in some pieces that are improving that situation and making it better from an experience standpoint. But for the most part, yes, it is a relatively young roster at Miami.
All right, for you Miami Hurricane fans out there that are watching, let us know what you think about Miami and their chances this season. Pro, con. What are you excited about the most? Leave it in the comment section. And obviously, we want you to subscribe to the channel because coming up, we actually have another one of your rivals buddies, Mr. McCready. He covers Ole Miss football for Rivals, and Brian Matthews was on just a couple of days ago with Auburn. So doing this Rivals thing, and why not? Because you guys at Rivals, you do it the best, and you guys, especially Brian, I've known him for a while. He's been with the company, and you've been with the company for a very long time.
We actually left Rivals, Greg, about a month ago.
A month ago, really?
Yeah, we moved to the new On3 network.
Okay, explain that then. Tell me a little bit about because I saw on three somewhere like a couple of days ago. I was going through somebody's bio information. I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I looked at On3. I had never heard of it before. And I said, wow, there's a lot of traffic on that website. What
Yeah,
is it? Is it basically like the same template, the same kind of?
it's similar, but just it's upgraded. It's better. It's the new car in town, the new toy. Whatever you want to call it. And the guy that founded On3 is the guy by the name of Shannon Terry, who was the former founder of Rivals and 24/7. So this is his third time around building a business like this, and obviously he's got all that experience to draw on. So it's all good. Our site's already very successful on that network, and we're very happy with the move.
That's great. All right. Well, looking forward to that then. So, okay. Let's go through the team, and it'll start at the quarterback position with Tyler Van Dyke. What an exciting first season last year, not just because it's a college quarterback that's playing his part and making exciting plays and all kind of stuff, but just you just look at him and he's like, wow, that's a quarterback. I mean, that's your old school pro style looking quarterback. And you got to think that if he has a really good year, it may be a bad thing for Miami because he may not return, but wow, what a season he could have this year.
Yeah, I agree. He could have a good season this year, but the thing that's a little tricky, Greg, is that they lost their top two receivers from a year ago, and there's a big question mark as to what the receiver position is going to look like this year for Miami, and are they going to be able to get the ball down the field the way that they were able to last year? So, a lot to prove there, in my opinion, and we won't really know until they get probably into week 3 of the season against Texas A&M. But they need somebody, at least they need one guy to step up at receiver and just become a dude. And I'm not sure they have that guy. They've got a possession receiver by the name of Xavier Restrepo, who is very good, and I think he will end up leading the team in receptions.
Okay.
And will get a lot of targets from Tyler Van Dyke. They happen to be roommates, so I'm sure they talk about that quite often. But I'm not sure they got a guy that's going to just like stretch the field and give them those easy scores that you sometimes need to get. And to me, that's one of the bigger concerns of the Miami season right now, along with maybe the linebacker spot.
Well, you mentioned Ladson, and then there's also Keyshawn Smith, who had
Yep.
over 400 last year. But could Jacoby George be that guy you're talking about? Because he did have a high average.
He could be that guy. I don't see evidence that he's going to be that guy. I think Keyshawn Smith probably has the best shot of the guys that are there, but he hasn't proven that he can perform at that level on a consistent basis either, Greg.
All right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out at receiver for Miami.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens in college too. When we saw it, like for instance, with Sam Howell last year, he had all his weapons the year before. Everything looked great, but he loses all his weapons, and his stats go pretty far down, but still he proves that he's still a good quarterback. And that's what I think we'll see with Miami, is that you'll still put up the numbers, but if you don't have those weapons, then it may not be the numbers that he's hoping to get. Maybe again that benefits Miami if he decides to come back for another year, especially if he gets a taste of success. Maybe that's what you're also hoping for, is get a little taste of success, and hey, you know what, if you come back one more year, we have a chance for the playoffs. That's what you're really hoping for. What about at running back? So Knighton is now the top guy. And tell me about some of these others. So you got a top freshman recruit in Citizen, and then you've got a transfer from Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a top guy. I mean, Knighton's the returning starter, but Henry Parrish comes in with a pretty good resume from Ole Miss. So I see those two being the first two guys in the game at that position. And then it'll depend on what Citizen can get done here in training camp and whether he can earn the confidence of the coaches to get that, a significant playing time once the games begin. And then let's not forget John Chaney, who's played some football for Miami. He's coming back off of injury. So really they have 4 guys that can contribute at running back.
Because that's the one thing we have to remember. Back in the old days, there were talent galore, but it was that running back position. Of course, you had the quarterbacks, Bernie Kosar and all that, but the running backs were just one after another. And I got to believe that could be one of the top recruiting efforts from Cristobal. Have you seen anything yet as far as the future next year already? Or do you already see some recruits, top recruits, that are already going to start impacting the program in 2023?
Yeah, they're off to a very good start in recruiting. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they're right now, I think, ranked number 6 in the country in recruiting. They got this kid Francis Magoa from IMG Academy. He's an elite offensive tackle. Jaden Wayne, a defensive end out of Tacoma, Washington. Jaden Rashada, a quarterback out of California. Malik Bryant, a linebacker out of Orlando, Florida. Riley Williams, a tight end out of Portland.
Wow. I mean, you have not mentioned one player from South Florida.
You know what? You're right. I would get to a couple of them. Nathaniel Joseph, a wide receiver, and Robbie Washington, a wide receiver. But yeah, they are going out really all over the country and recruiting right now, Greg, and they're doing a really, really good job of it. A lot of people think Miami, has to dominate South Florida. And I think ultimately in the big picture it does. But right now they are making a living on going around the country and recruiting different guys. So they're off to a good start in recruiting. Long way to go, though.
And that's just another bonus is that when he was in South Florida previously, especially at FIU, you know where you're going to recruit, but you would think, oh, Cristobal, he knows the area well. But now he's coming from the West Coast too. So, and you just mentioned guys from the West Coast. So now he's got the ties from the West Coast, and he's got his ties already from South Florida. So that's doubly delicious if you're a Hurricane fan, just hearing that news. And the offensive line as well. I think this is definitely, if even just over the last 5 or 6 years, when things are starting to get a little bit better with the program, the offensive line just hasn't been anywhere near the type of unit that they've had in the old days. So that has to be, I'm sure, a critical part of future recruiting is to get that dominant offensive line going again.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's been a huge emphasis in the offseason. It's getting a huge emphasis in training camp. And you've got a head coach that has been an elite offensive line guy in his career to work in tandem with an O-line coach who also has an extremely good reputation now of developing offensive linemen. So you can pretty much book it that Miami's going to be better on the offensive line over a year ago. The question is how much better. And the other thing I'll point out, Greg, is Josh Gaddis at Michigan was a 50-50 essentially offensive coordinator. Like he wants to run the ball. You know, everyone thinks that, okay, they have Tyler Van Dyke coming back. He's an elite pro style quarterback, which he is, and they're going to just sling the ball all over the field. I'm not sure that's the case. I mean, Josh Gaddis has shown that he values a running game, that he will use a running game, and then try to set up maybe some play action passes off success in the running game. So obviously, you can't accomplish that, Greg, without a good offensive line.
Being a Michigan fan, what I liked about Gaddis was that the first few years he was there, it was that whole spread thing, the craze of everybody's running the spread, and we got to run the spread, and it was like Harbaugh realized, look, this is Michigan. I can't run this spread anymore. That's not me. That's not how I was successful at my other stops. I have to go back to being a power football team. I got to run the football, and overnight, it transformed the program and the offense and the team in general. And you saw what happened last year. The running game with Hassan Haskins, and they go 2 other running backs that are coming back this year, and Edwards and Corum. So running the football definitely, like you mentioned, is going to be something that Josh Gaddis is going to do. And I was impressed with the fact that Josh Gaddis was able to make that transition himself from somebody, like I said, that came there trying to run the spread and overnight was able to run more of a power-centric type of football program on offense. And I thought they did a great job.
Well, you know, he was at Alabama too, and you know he knew their offense well, and you know he's been at different places to where he would have gotten that education.
Sure.
But he did do a great job adjusting at Michigan, and that's why he won the Broyles Award as the nation's top assistant last year. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does at Miami. He's got some different options to his avail. I'm not sure slinging the ball all over the sandlot is going to be one of them. I'm expecting this to have to be a little bit more of a station-to-station kind of offense this year for the Hurricanes. And we'll see how he adjusts to that.
Okay, so the top 2 linemen are Scaife and Nelson, correct? And tell me, where does DJ fit? Is he going to play right tackle? And where do you think he fits best at the next level? How does he rank, too? Because he's a first-team ACC player. I know Zion's an honorable mention, but when I take a look at the top prospects, a lot of the scouts seem to favor Nelson. So you tell me, is it because you think DJ may move inside at the next level?
I don't know. I don't really want to speculate on his pro future. I think right now he's got to survive a full year of college football as a starter, which he was not able to do last year. But he'll be the right tackle, I'm pretty sure. And Zion Nelson will be the left tackle, I'm pretty sure. I would say Zion is further along as a player right now than DJ. There's no doubt about it. I think the best lineman on the team is going to be Jalen Rivers, the left guard, and you know, a guy that people don't really think about right now. But you know, I think he is going to end up being the best offensive lineman that they have. And you know, from there we're going to see there's a lot of competition going on in training camp.
All right, that's a good one. So he's one of you because that's one of the questions I'm going to ask you is give me some breakout players. So that sounds like Jalen Rivers is near the top of your list as far as a breakout player.
Yeah, I would definitely include him on that list for sure.
Okay, Will Mallory. Uh, do you believe, especially with all these receivers, again looking for the right breakout guys or looking for some chemistry, because of Mallory and his talent, do you think this is the perfect year for him to have his breakout season?
You would think so. We've been waiting for it for a few years now, and it hasn't happened. I mean, he's got a lot of skills. He's going to get a lot of targets. He's going to be a focal point of the offense. There's no doubt about it. So he should have a very good year. Is he going to carry the offense by himself? No, I don't think he is. So I think you're going to see them use 3 tight ends, Greg. I think you're going to see a lot of H-back with the tight ends. They got 3 of them they feel good about. Elijah Arroyo, Jaleel Skinner, I think are going to get utilized a lot by Josh Gaddis, and you're going to see a lot of multiple tight end sets over the course of the season for Miami that maybe might make up a little bit for what they're lacking on the outside.
And Skinner, another one of the top recruits this year, so you've had a little bit of opportunity to see him. How does he rank so far at this level of his progress as somebody that he could be a good one?
Oh, he's definitely going to be a good one, but he's learning right now. I mean, it's kind of touchy to try to put crazy expectations on his season, but he has a lot of ability, Greg. He's a guy that should exit in a few years as a very high NFL draft pick. He's a mismatch nightmare for linebackers, and I think this will be a good entry year for him into college football.
All right. And by the way, Mallory played with Brevin Jordan a few years ago. And that's when we were doing the show, actually. We did that weekly show a couple of years back. And Brevin had a little bit of a disappointing final couple of years at Miami overall statistically. And yet, it's funny because he goes in the NFL and he had a great first season for Houston. And he's all of a sudden their number 1 tight end by far on the team.
He's a good player.
Yeah. So how does somebody like Mallory compare? Just again, because these two have been the closest together. So how does he compare to Jordan?
They're different kind of players. Jordan's more of like a receiver playing tight end. Mallory's more of a pure tight end. Jordan probably has a little more speed, but Mallory's not what I would say slow. Mallory's got a big wingspan. He's a big target. I think that helps his effectiveness. But it's kind of hard. I think the comparison to Brevin and Jordan would be Skinner more so than Mallory.
But overall, Mallory, and I like what you're saying about Mallory because, I was even though it was a pretty deep, not at the top, there was no pits this past draft, but it was a relatively deep draft of tight ends in the middle rounds. Yet every time you're taking a look and you're breaking down these tight ends nowadays, like 90% of them can't block. So if you can get a guy that's well-rounded, and it sounds to me like Mallory's well-rounded, then that's the kind of guy I think NFL teams really covet because they're pretty rare. So.
Well, he's going to have to improve his blocker over the past. There's no doubt about it. The guy who really might be the best well-rounded, the way you're describing on this team, is Elijah Arroyo. He's a guy that is a decent blocker, but is evolving into a pass catch threat as well. In fact, if you look at the stats from last year, Arroyo is the one that averaged 17 yards of reception. Okay. Granted, he only had 5 receptions. But he averaged 17 yards. Mallory had more receptions, but he only averaged, I think, 11.4. So, I don't know. The whole thing could go in so many different directions for the Hurricanes this year at tight end. But I think they've got 3 very good ones.
Okay, now on defense. So Kevin Steele, boy, you can't ask for a more battle-tested, veteran in all the big games kind of guy that Kevin Steele has been afforded. Auburn, LSU, Alabama, Clemson. So it's not even like, oh, yeah, he's been here, he's been there. He's been like at the best stops in college football. Yeah. So he's played with the best coach, the best players in the biggest games. And Charlie Strong joins the team as well. Is this more of, all right, we know Kevin Steele's the man, but does Strong come along to help more recruiting than anything?
No, I wouldn't say that. I don't think recruiting is Charlie Strong's calling card by any stretch of the
Okay.
imagination. I think Charlie is a good veteran defensive coach who will complement Kevin Steele and coach the linebackers. And I don't think there's much more to it than
Okay.
that. I don't think there's anything that we're missing here. I think it's a credit to Charlie that he was willing to take a step back in his career
Absolutely.
and come coach a position at Miami. Um, but obviously a very good hire for Mario Cristobal.
Yeah, both of those hires, first year, that's going to help the transition, no question. Okay, the defensive line. So there's a lot of new faces, but most of them, this is where most of the transfers are coming from. So you got a good from UCLA, who was a second teamer. You got Mesidor, a third teamer from West Virginia. You got a kid from USC. You got a kid from UAB. And then you also have the freshman Moss. So there's a lot of new guys. Who sticks out the most?
Mitchell Agood coming from UCLA sticks out a lot to me. He's a prototypical looking defensive end. I expect him to have a really good year. Mesidor is going to be interesting. He was played inside a lot at West Virginia. They're going to be asking him to move outside here.
Okay.
We'll see how fast he makes that adjustment. But he's a very good player. I think Jake Lichtenstein is going to help them a lot. The transfer from USC in the defensive tackle rotation. But as much as anything, they need a defensive tackle by the name of Leonard Taylor to step up. He's a guy that a couple of years ago was looked at as somebody who could be, all-American level talent at Miami. He has not stepped up to those predictions at this point, and this is the year he needs to do that.
All right. And what about Moss? Because he's one of the top recruits from this past cycle. Is he somebody that's just going to need a red shirt, especially with all these veterans on the team, or can he make some sort of an impact?
I mean, he'll get some spot play, but he's way too skinny right now, Greg. He'll get manhandled against good teams.
Okay.
I'll be surprised if he contributes a ton this year.
Now, linebacker to me is the biggest question when I was just going over the roster. What's the biggest concern at that linebacker spot, as far as you're concerned, as far as you believe?
They just don't have a lot of quality there. I mean, they had to go out and get Caleb Johnson to transfer from UCLA, and he's going to help them. But I don't know that anybody would call him a great linebacker. They just don't have, for whatever reason, a lot of quality at that position, and they're going to be scrambling a little bit the whole year. I think. I don't think it's any escaping that.
And once again, talked about the old days of Miami. I'm not so sure on defense with all the great players and all the positions on defense. I don't know. Linebacker might stick out the most for me. So that's another position that we're going to start seeing some big time recruits come down the road at some point. And then the secondary. Now the secondary has most of the homegrown talent compared to the rest of the units. Transfers in the defensive line, questions at linebacker, but you look at the secondary and James Williams. Tell me about the high end ceiling of James Williams, because he's such a big guy at that position. Apparently had a good start to his career last year. It seems like sky's the limit.
Yeah, I personally think he needs to be a linebacker, but he doesn't want to be a linebacker, so that hasn't happened yet. But they've got 3 decent safeties, and I think it's imperative that they get all 3 guys on the field at the same time. So I'm expecting James Williams to spend a lot of time this year in the box,
okay,
and to make room for Cam Kitchens to play a little bit more as a safety. And Avonte Williams, we'll see how he does. But I really, really like Cam Kitchens. I think he's the best safety they have, and he's coming back off injury. And a lot of people are just penciling in this James Williams, Avonte Williams starting lineup. And I'll echo our buddy, Lee Corso, and just say, not so fast, my friend, because I think Cam Kitchens is going to have a lot to say before it's all said and done.
All right, sounds like another breakout candidate. Al Blades is I mean, the name, it's Miami. What kind of a player is Al Blades?
He is an effort guy. Like, the guy gives 100% every rep. He's great on special teams because of it. just has a great passion for football. Is he a great cornerback? I'm not ready to say that. I think he's a good cornerback, but he's a guy that will bring so much to this team just on his effort, and he'll probably be part of every special team.
Okay. Tyreek Stevenson. Is he right up there as far as one of their top defensive backs?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He had a high quality season last year. Has missed spring practice. Has been rehabbing a hurt shoulder throughout the whole off season, but he'll be ready to go in September. And I'm expecting him to have a very good season.
Yeah, he's got excellent size for the position, which is
yeah, he does.
Yeah, that's always what you're looking for. Daryl Porter, he's the top transfer into that secondary.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about him other than what I've read from his time at West Virginia, but he was brought in to give them stability and a quality starter on one side, and I think they're counting on him and Tyreek to have this thing on lockdown quite a bit this season, and kind of cover up a little bit for some of the other issues they might have.
It sounds like with that defensive line possibilities and that secondary that if all goes well, the defense could have a good season. And what about special teams? Because it appeared the coverage units lacked last year, but place kicker, another Borogalis, highly recruited, off to a really good start so far, and Headley at punter, also one of the top punters in the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, Borgales had a decent year for a freshman last year, and he'll be back. And Headley should be one of the best punters in the country. So they feel decent about their kicking game and where they are, Greg. I think they would like to be a little bit better on kickoffs. I'm not sure what answers they might find there, but I think when it comes to the actual place kicking, they're in decent shape. And punting, they should be in very good shape.
All right, now I've got several questions I want to ask you, and we've already. We've already. These are like the big three questions to wrap up the interview. We've already touched up on one of them. Breakout. Let's get some breakout players. You mentioned one on offense on the offensive line with Rivers. So give me a couple other breakout players for the Miami Hurricanes.
I'll say Trevante Citizen at running back. I think his quality will rise at some point, and that he will definitely make an impact there. At wide receiver, I would say Xavier Restrepo. I'm looking for him to make an impact. I would say at tight end, Jaleel Skinner can have a breakout kind of year. On the D line, I would say Agud and Messidor are two guys that should break out. At linebacker, Caleb Johnson for sure. And then in the secondary, I would say Cam Kinchins is the breakout guy.
Who's at the top of your list?
Probably Cam Kinchins. I just think he's a really good player, and I think that he's going to be begging to get on the field.
Okay. Now, let's talk about if you had to name a player that you think might end up as the top prospect for next year's draft on this team. And let's not talk quarterback because that'd be too easy.
I was going to say he guy. Number two, I'm going to say Mitchell Agud. Okay. I think that he is going to have a really good season. He's going to get the opportunity to be that guy, and I think he's going to get it done.
Okay, and then finally, for anybody out there that likes to wager on games, and we have this Playbook magazine here from Mark Lawrence, and I have an interesting stat in here, but you have one because I requested you to give me a really good handicapping stat that maybe fans don't know of, but you do because you follow the team. So give me a good handicapping stat that fans should know about the Miami Hurricanes for this upcoming season.
Well, most sports books are making the over-under for Miami 8.5, and I like the over on that, Greg. I think Miami will be at least a 9-win team this year, so that would be my stat.
I like it.
The over-under 8.5, and take the over.
And that's how many games are they playing?
12.
Okay, so that would be 9-3. Do they win the division?
Oh boy,
it's a crazy division.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the thing I worry about is they got to play Clemson and that's not going to leave them for a ton of margin of error against, like, say, Pittsburgh. Um, but I'll go out on a limb. I'll say yes. But I don't think it's going to be easy for them because I think going to Clemson, they're going to be big underdogs, and if you lose that game, you really can't afford to lose more than one other in the entire conference schedule. So we'll see.
Yeah, because I was looking in there. Yeah, Pittsburgh does not have to play Clemson, and
Correct.
Pitt also doesn't have to play NC State. So I'm seeing that too. Not that Miami doesn't have NC State, do they?
No.
Okay. So, but Clemson, end of the season, it's at Clemson, and then versus Pittsburgh in back-to-back weeks. Wow. And then Florida State makes it 3 out of 4 to end the season in November. That's a nice November schedule. That's the tough part of the schedule, no question about it. But that does mean that with the changes and the new coach and everything going on, changes, young team, that this is really the kind of schedule you prefer because there's a lot more winnable games early.
Yeah. I think it sets up well. They have the 2 easy games to start the season, which helps a little bit with a new head coach, new coordinators, lets them kind of get into the flow a little bit, and then they go test themselves at Texas A&M. So it's going to be fun, Greg. I'm looking forward to watching this play out. I think it's going to be an entertaining Miami team. I think it's going to be a decent Miami team, but it's going to be a Miami team that does still have some holes.
Yeah, winning the ACC is one thing, but winning the Coastal Division is completely another. And I could see Miami doing it. Matter of fact, it might even be my pick to win it. But still, that would mean that even if they did get to the championship game, they'd possibly have to beat Clemson, at least once. So maybe having them on the schedule in the regular season, if they can beat Pittsburgh and get to the championship game, would be a good thing because they've already played them. They get a little bit, they understand what's going on. And Mario Cristobal, by the way, is that was the one thing I was going to let you know as far as the handicapping on my end, because Playbook, one of their top stats on the Miami Hurricanes, well, Mario Cristobal, 13-5 against the spread versus undefeated teams, and 10-0 against the spread when those teams allow more than 11 points a game. So bottom line is, and we saw it last year with Oregon and Ohio State, is that Cristobal finds ways in those big matchups to come up big, and that's a good sign for a head coach and for Miami fans.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll jump to the conclusion there that you are. I don't think that there's necessarily an analogy to what he did at Oregon to what's going to happen at Miami, but I'm expecting them to get out of the gates pretty quick. So we'll see.
It's better than being 5-13 and 0-10. So
yeah, no
definitely helps. All right, Gary. Can't wait to talk during the season. I don't know when that's going to be, but we'll definitely talk during the season at least a couple of times. Like I said, I expect it to be a fun year. I'm sure the fans, as we said before, they're just stoked for the season to kick off with the new regime, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You must be really happy as well, not only with Cristobal in town, and you can follow this program again and the heights that they might be able to reach again, but you're with a new organization, as you mentioned, On3.
Yes, sir.
And it's on3.com. It's as simple as that, correct?
Yep, and we're canesport.com.
And it's always canesport.com.
Yep.
So that's something that has not changed, and that's important. That was easy to remember. Gary, I appreciate it. Thanks for helping us preview the season for the Hurricanes, and we'll talk to you during the season.
Anytime, Greg.